August 4th, David Livingstone.
When confronted with injustice, do you step back or speak out? David Livingstone deplored slavery, and with good reason. On the 19th of June, 1866, Livingstone wrote about one of his trips across Africa. We passed a woman tied by the neck to a tree. She was dead. The natives explained that she'd been unable to keep up with the other slaves and was going to be left behind, and the slave trader had decided that if she wouldn't be his property, neither would she belong to anyone else. Livingstone wrote, "We saw others tied up in a similar manner, and one lying in the path shot or stabbed, for she was in a pool of blood. The slave trader had become enraged when the woman could no longer march, and the man was beside himself over the money he was losing in the deal, so he killed her." On June 26th, Livingstone came upon a well-dressed African woman with many fine beads, as only wealthy women wear. She had a heavy slave-taming stick jutting out of her back, as if she could be steered by it. When she saw Livingstone, she cried out to him about the injustice done to her. He realized the man with her was likely a slave trader. Here he was at this exact place and time, just as if God had orchestrated the meeting. Livingstone stopped and asked the woman what had been done to her. She said she was a near relative of Chief Chirikaloma, and she was going to see her husband when this man, her captor, chased off her maid and seized her. But the man, not at all eager to stop and chat, claimed she was running away from the great Chief Chirikaloma, and he'd captured her so that the chief wouldn't be angry. Livingstone was certain the old man planned to sell the woman, but instead of responding with a knee-jerk reaction, in a friendly voice, he asked the man what he expected to receive from the chief for capturing the woman. The old man said, "Nothing." Well aware that the man's story didn't add up, Livingstone gave him a gift of fine woven cloth to give to Chief Chirikaloma to appease him if he was offended. Then Livingstone freed the woman and told the man, "Tell the chief that I, feeling ashamed to see one of his relatives in a slave stick, had released her and would take her on to her husband." Perhaps it was God who had orchestrated this encounter. This reminds us of the story of Queen Esther, when her uncle Mordecai pleaded with her, "Do you think you will escape there in the palace when all the other Jews are killed? If you keep quiet at a time like this, God will deliver the Jews from some other source, but you and your relatives will die. What's more, who can say but that God has brought you into the palace for just such a time as this?" When confronted with injustice, do you step back or speak out? Speak out.
Hello, men. My name is Ryan. I'm a narrator at 365 Christian Men. David Livingstone was a man who stood up for what was right, even when it wasn't easy. And obviously, today we're not dealing, at least in our everyday lives, with stuff like the slave trade, but we are dealing with injustices, whether it's somebody at work not being treated right, or things in your own family or friendships. And what was really cool about this story for me is that David, when he came across this slave trader and this woman, after he got a response from this slave trader, he stopped and took a second to respond. And man, this is convicting for me this week, because there's been situations in my week where things didn't quite go my way, and I took a second to respond, and then a day later, a couple hours later, I was really glad that I did. But more than that, just being willing to not be quiet when you see injustices in your life. Be willing to step in and have a God perspective on what he would do in that situation. So men, this week I challenge you, if you see injustice in the workplace or just when you're out and about, be willing to listen, see what's going on, and then act.